previous chapter, RECAPS had a significant encounter with the spirit inhabiting the ruins. He sternly advised the spirit not to lie, a directive the spirit understood and heeded. Consequently, the spirit unveiled the reasons and effects of its mysterious power to RECAPS, and because RECAPS had such a high willpower, he devised a solution that was beneficial not only to the spirit, but also to the god he served, which the spirit was hesitant to agree at first. But the spirit was eventually persuaded by RECAPS' charismatic communication and deep understanding of its character, leading it to accept RECAPS' terms and bestow upon him the power of demonic electricity. This development delighted Nebula, as this was the best-case scenario, but he doesn't think this was mere coincidence, as he felt that meeting RECAPS seems to be good luck for the both of them. And with this, 9 years had passed quite easily, and the lizardmen had truly evolved. Their advancements were evident in their newfound comprehension of writing, and their appreciation for high-quality equipment. Even a particular lizardman, seen in the company of a human, exemplified the stark contrast between RECAPS' tribe and others. But with prosperity often comes rivalry. A new challenge emerged in the form of another thriving tribe, the Gnolls of the Earcut tribe, who worshipped a different god. A clash between the two tribes seemed inevitable, but the approaching Gnolls doesn't seem to be a part of the Earcut tribe. Still, since they are heading to the altar, the lizardman Owen decided to greet them enthusiastically. Now on to the next part. As Owen was about to use his bow, the man recognized it right away. It's the black-scaled lizardman's composite bow. The composite bow was made from the large water buffaloes that the black-scaled lizardmen were raising, and it was one of the bows that could shoot the farthest out of all the other bows in the wilderness. The black-scaled lizardmen only produced a specific number of the bows to arm each of their warriors, and they wouldn't ever trade them for anything. So the composite bows of the black-scaled lizardmen that others had were either extremely expensive or counterfeits. But Howie doesn't understand why Owen is taking out his bow already. It's still too far. But as if rebutting the man's thoughts, Owen didn't hesitate to take his shot, and the distance between him and the Gnolls was still over 100 steps. So the Gnolls, who were marching with their heads down, hadn't spotted Owen. And only as the bowstring was released did one Gnoll catch a fleeting glimpse of Owen, but it was too late for any defensive action. Luckily, the arrow just struck the ground amidst their ranks, and clueless of the arrow's true nature, the Gnolls initially mistook it for a regular misplaced shot, and so the leader shouted to alert his mates of an enemy attack. However, he soon realized that his attempts were futile. He was already too late, as he could already feel the chills rush through their bodies, making their hairs stand. And suddenly, an intense burst of thunderbolt descended from where the arrow had been, which in turn made the Gnolls close their eyes, but their eyelids didn't completely shield them from the intense light. And then the electricity soon reached them, electrifying them just enough to let them barely alive. With this, one of the Gnolls then remembered the famous legend among the black-scaled lizardmen, the Chosen Ones, and it was no doubt that they were against one such formidable figure. So they immediately decided to run as fast as they could. At the same time, the man was left in awe at the display of Owen's formidable abilities. The scene where Owen effortlessly overpowered the Gnolls with a single, strategically placed arrow revealed a level of skill and power that was both impressive and intimidating. Meanwhile, Owen, who was seemingly accustomed to such feats, was just sheepishly smiling as he watched the Gnolls flee in panic and disarray. He was satisfied with the outcome, knowing that sparing their lives meant they were unlikely to seek immediate revenge. After the confrontation was resolved, Owen took the opportunity to introduce himself to the man, which in turn surprises him, as he couldn't believe that he was in the presence of an important figure, Owen the storyteller, which flattered Owen, but he modestly downplayed his importance, suggesting that he wasn't as significant as the man believed. And because it's been a while since he used his power, Owen suggested to take a break and just talk for a moment. During this pause, Owen took out a long stick. The end of the stick was round and was then filled with grass and was lighted up so that he could breathe a white smoke out from his mouth. Meanwhile, Hui just stood there and wasn't surprised by this at all, as he knew what the stick was. It's a smoking pipe and tobacco, the ritual tool that the chosen black-scaled lizardmen use. Still, Hui couldn't help but wonder if the lizardman really needs to smoke that Zaza after they use their power. While pondering this, he respectfully gave Owen space to enjoy his session, patiently waiting for him to finish before they would continue their conversation. But since Owen is hitting that pipe and was feeling the vibe around him, he immediately noticed the man's silence, and so he told Hui that he can ask him things if he wants to. This prompted the man to ask why he goes around alone when he have that much power, but this just made Owen slightly puzzled. So he responded that he doesn't understand what he meant by that, because how would he go around alone if he didn't have this power, or if he were weak as shit for that matter? And the man couldn't find fault in his logic, so he decided to make his question clearer, and asks Owen again, The reason why does he follow someone when he is this powerful? There would be others who follow him within the black-scaled lizardmen tribe, and even if there isn't, he would be able to find other lizardmen somewhere out there and live a comfortable life. And from what he knows, the storyteller Owen always goes around alone, like a vagrant, lonely and dangerous. But this just made Owen laugh as if he just heard a funny story. After that, Owen soberly explained that he had his own reasons for his actions, mentioning that he carried the weight of many sins. This surprised the man, since he had witnessed so many lizardmen that respect him, which Owen clarified that he is indeed a sinner. But it is also true that he has been forgiven by many of those in their tribe. But the feeling that he has is more of a personal atonement issue. He can't forgive himself. With these simple words, the man understood what he meant, and as the man nodded, Owen assured him that there was no need for sympathy, as he had discovered his own path to self-forgiveness. And this was it. He goes around telling stories of the blue insect god and RECAPS the tribal chief, through storytelling and writing, and sometimes giving fear as well. After all that was cleared up, Owen tucked away his smoking pipe and asked Hui where is he heading, as he seemed like a vagrant as well. Hui, with a thoughtful scratch of his beard, saw no reason to conceal the truth, so he answered truthfully that he is not a vagrant, and he came from Automation. Automation was an isolated valley located at the southwest end of the wilderness. A human tribe had settled down where the springs flowed, and at the entrance of the valley was a fortress made from soil. It was called a fortress, but it actually wasn't built by humans. It was named Automation because, through an ancient mystery, there existed ancient mud soldiers reaching a human's waist in height that continuously restored the fortress when it broke down. And because of this, the human tribe that succeeded in occupying the place were able to protect themselves from the other large tribes. Automation was also a place that the ears-cut gnolls and black-scaled lizardmen were keeping an eye on. And it seems like Hui is an errand boy from Automation, and he is on his way to the black-scaled lizardmen to deliver the words of the Lord of Automation. And so Owen immediately apologized as he didn't recognize a guest. But this was a good coincidence for him, which made Hui puzzled. So he asks what he meant by that. But Owen didn't answer it and just whistled. And in the distance, a silhouette of a beast suddenly materialized. But as it drew close, it revealed to be a harsh-looking chicken which was about 2.5 meters tall. And Howie only knew one monster with this kind of look. So he assumed that it was a cockatrice, which Owen immediately clarified that it's a quokka, not a cockatrice. And so the man then realized what it was. This is that famous cockatrice and chicken crossbreed. Still, he is not sure how the lizardmen even made it possible, as the quokkas were a creature that only a small portion of the lizardmen warriors could ride. Overall, it had the appearance of a cockatrice, but it was smaller and more gentle. The black-scaled lizardmen weren't able to tame cockatrices, but they did succeed in crossbreeding quokka. Alongside the chosen ones, these quokka warriors were one of the main reasons the black-scaled lizardmen had a both prestige and evil reputation. Since quokkas can run several times faster than people, and the black lizard men can shoot their composite bows hundreds of steps away from their targets. But since Hui is their guest, he doesn't have to feel scared, and Owen already made up his mind that he should also treat him generously. And so he invited Hui to join him on his quokka, as he was planning to visit RECAPS as well. This gesture of offering a ride was both practical and courteous, allowing Hui to travel more comfortably and efficiently. But this wasn't free either, as Owen playfully told him that he will have to listen to his stories along the way, which made Hui let out a soft and concerned laugh, as he realized that their journey will be a long one. True to his word, Owen began to share stories about the blue insect god and the saga of RECAPS. At a later time, within black-scaled lizardmen tribe, their flag soared proudly. The tribe was on the move again, venturing through the wilds to reach a new destination. But now their travel methods had evolved, showcasing a readiness for any future challenges, as each warrior was mounted, vigilantly safeguarding the tribe members and their herd. And leading the way was RECAPS, perched atop a massive monstrous bird. And from his elevated position, RECAPS could effortlessly survey the entire surroundings. Those who had never met RECAPS wouldn't know, but the black-scaled lizardmen hadn't completely failed in taming cockatrices. The large monstrous bird was a cockatrice that was over 3.5 meters tall, and RECAPS was the only individual who somewhat succeeded in taming one. One could think it was a shame there was only one special case, but it was due to the success of taming the large monstrous bird that the quokkas were born. But as he was minding his business, an errand boy suddenly came to him and whispered that Stargazer wanted to see him now, which shocked RECAPS. This could only mean one thing, and so he turns his cockatrice and command for the procession to stop. As RECAPS shouted, each lizardman warrior in the middle of the other processions repeated his words to all the other lizardmen. The processions of black-scaled lizardmen that were large enough to make dust clouds instantly stopped at RECAPS' orders. While RECAPS immediately went towards where Stargazer was, And as Rakrak got down from the large monstrous bird, Jaol, who was following behind him, came down from her korka and asked what's wrong, to which Rakrak explained that Stargazer had requested to see him, while also saying that his life is on the line, which Jaol understood, so she lets Rakrak be. But she couldn't hide her emotions, remarking that it would be a sad night, which Rakrak was well aware, and that old wise man has correctly predicted the days ahead of them as well as his own. So he thinks that Stargazer will be correct again this time. And so Rakrak continued to walk to Stargazer. The old lizardman had done a lot for Rakrak and the black-scaled lizardmen. He went by many names because he refused to respond to only one name. But now, he was most commonly referred to as the Elder by the tribe members, as Stargazer had first led Rakrak and his clan from the hill with the tower all the way to where the frogmen had initially settled down, and after that, he led them to more places farther away. And Rakrak had learned how to look at the stars from him. So the two always talked about stars. Stargazer even named the stars, so others would be able to learn as well. And as a result, the warriors, herbalists, and buffalo herders all learned how to read the stars to prevent getting lost. Before, the lizardmen had always learned about the earth and believed that the earth provided them with everything, and thus they weren't too keen on learning things about the sky. But as time passed, they came to realize that knowledge about the sky was useful. Those who went away from the tribe and got lost found their ways back by looking at the stars, and those who wanted to sleep by the rivers looked at how low the birds flew, and by the movement of the stars, the lizardmen were able to know when flowers bloomed and when plants withered. The intelligent black-scaled lizardmen wanted to gain more knowledge of the earth and the sky, so they would go to Stargazer to discuss and explore more about where the stars came from, how the positions of the stars had changed, and how they would change in the future. And oftentimes, the end of another busy day would find Rakrak sitting down with Stargazer, tired but with a languid look on his face. Stargazer would sit with his back hunched but his eyes shining, and they would exchange questions and answers between them. Rakrak used to give gifts to thank Stargazer for continuously teaching the young lizardman about his wisdom, even though he was old and tired. But Stargazer always turned the gifts down with a wave of his hand, believing that he couldn't accept this considering all that the tribal chief has done for him, as the tribal chief was the one who accepted him even when he was a vagrant. In response, Rakrak insisted that there was no need for thanks. He pointed out that it wasn't just him who had welcomed Stargazer, but the entire tribe had accepted him. While Stargazer agreed with Rakrak's sentiment, he still felt indebted to at least one person, and suggested Rakrak to take the gifts back. And Stargazer was good with words, so it was hard for Rakrak to win an argument with him. However, Rakrak was quick-witted. He would quickly hide his gifts in Stargazer's tent when Stargazer wasn't looking during their conversations. And when Stargazer found these gifts and brought them back to Rakrak, asking where they came from, Rakrak would say he knew nothing of them. They spent many years making these small jokes, but Rakrak suddenly realized that these small jokes would come to an end, and he felt like a part of his heart was tearing apart. Then as Rakrak entered Stargazer's tent, a herbalist who was beside Stargazer's bed got up. In turn, he immediately inquired if Stargazer was okay. Respectfully, the herbalist answered that the elder has lived a very long time and is very exhausted now. And with Stargazer eyes half closed, he opened his mouth and added that he is also tired. As he had studied a lot and taught a lot of people, he has traveled back and forth, here and there, even to places he has never been. He has lost an arm, got kicked out, and remained as a loner for a long time. There will always come a time when they become extremely exhausted. As far as he knows, there's only one cure to this illness, and that is to sleep forever. And Rakrak just slowly nodded and admitted what he hadn't wanted to admit, and sat beside Stargazer. And all that remained in the tent was Rakrak, Stargazer, and a torchlight flickering in the background, setting a somber tone for their conversation. And so Rakrak started the conversation by casually mentioning that he had heard that Stargazer wanted to see him. Prompting Stargazer to explain that was because he wanted to indulge in some extravagance before he leaves. This puzzled Rakrak, so he asked what does he meant by that, which Stargazer replied that he thinks time is very valuable. He has lived his life without greed and tried to take as little as possible of what belonged to others, but this is his last moment, so he wanted to steal time from the busiest lizardmen in this tribe. This made Rakrak laugh. Still, he doesn't think Stargazer would have called him just for one last joke, which Stargazer confirmed, and disclosed the real purpose behind summoning him, and that he has a question, one that only Rakrak was deemed worthy enough to answer. But before posing his question, he told Rakrak to think of it as a question not for Tribal Chief Rakrak, but for High Priest Rakrak, the first chosen one, and the one closest to God, which Rakrak understood, so he asked Stargazer to proceed. And so Stargazer started to inquire what happens after death.